Dear ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's actually just afternoon. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for those of you joining us remotely for this session on windows of opportunity in Central and Eastern Europe, sponsored by our long-standing partner, UniCredit. I'm particularly pleased that we are doing this together with UniCredit, which is a long-standing partner of the EBRD, a long-standing client. It's a bank who we've lent in 10 different countries in Central and Eastern Europe, upwards of 1.5 billion euros over the history of the EBRD. So one of our greatest partners. So welcome, my name is Francis Malige. I'm the Managing Director for Financial Institutions here at the EBRD. And we thought that this panel was warranted because the situation is actually unprecedented. We have the aftermath of the COVID pandemic and post-COVID recovery, the rapidly changing global perspective. We have the significant uncertainty, huge uncertainty that's been created by the war started by Russia against Ukraine, and which is reverberating across the region. So in that context, though, we felt it was important to still look at opportunities in Central and Eastern Europe, because in every crisis lies opportunity. And we'd like to go through real stories of business representatives in the region, as well as international financial institution representatives we have invited. And so we've invited Vincent van Stinsel, head of the EIF, European Investment Fund, which is a subsidiary of the European Investment Bank. We have Marko Vukadinovic, who wanted to be with us today, but for logistical reasons couldn't. So Marko owes me a beer next time we meet in Vienna, I think, in a couple of weeks' time. And of course, we have clients, representatives from the real economy. We have Mariam Vrel, the owner at Falien Budi. I hope I'm not saying this too badly, Maria, who you distribute solar panels in Croatia, and Libor Weiser, who's the CEO of Grafko Kaspar, who's a company in Croatia as well. But before we start with the panel discussion, I'd like to hand over to Andrea Tiberi, who's actually the live UniCredit representative on this panel. Andrea, over to you.
Thank you, Francis. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to UniCredit sponsor session here in Marrakesh, and all the attendees connected remotely in this moment. As you mentioned before, UniCredit has been one of the sponsors of the EBRD Annual Meeting and Business Forum. We are very delighted to be with you here again this year. Every time we try to select the most suitable and interesting topics to be discussed with relevant and senior panelists. So I really do hope that you will enjoy today's session. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea, very much. Now, before I have a question to start with for Vincent, but before we do this, I'd like to mention, we also want to know what you in the audience think, whether in the room or remotely. So if you want to join in, you need to log into our app, slido.com, and then you put in the code 917000. Select the event name, Windows of Opportunity into Central and Eastern Europe, and you can ask your question, and it will pop up here. So I will be able to share it with everyone if I find it's an appropriate question. I've got the tablet, therefore I've got the power on the questions. But before we go into the Q&A, so let's hear from our distinguished panelists, and starting with Vincent. What's the EIF's, EIB's view on the situation in the region? Do you see the space for business opportunities currently? And how is EIF involved in supporting them? Vincent. I think we have Vincent on mute for now.
Do you hear me?
Yes, we hear you now. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, good afternoon. First of all, let me thank you for the invitation. It's always good to see clients and to participate to this kind of event. My name is Vincent van Stinsel. I'm heading the portfolio guarantees activities of the EF. So, in terms of situation in the region, as you know, the region has been impacted by the COVID. and the EAB group, we tried to act very quickly. So we had to develop instrument to address the urgent needs of companies, in particular SMEs. This is the remit of the EF. First of all, we looked at what was available under the previous programming period, and the first reaction was to quickly adjust those existing instruments to answer the most urgent needs. So this is what we have done under a certain product called Innofin, Cosme, and Easy. This was the initial direct answer, and I think 1 month after the crisis, we had more than 1 billion available to support the companies. But this was not enough, of course. So then we are discussing with different stakeholders, with our colleague from the EAB and the Commission, and certain member states. And member states decided to partner and to deploy a new set of instruments to try to help companies during those difficult periods. And 22 member states, in fact, partner, and they put together an amount of almost 25 billion. And the idea was to try to leverage an amount of up to 200 billion to be channeled in the real economy. So this is something that we have done last year, and I have to admit that this was quite successful. In terms of commitments, we have, I mean, last year our institution have done more than 30 billion of commitments. If you add the contribution from my colleague from the EAB, this is up to 19 billion that has been committed last year. So this was an unprecedented event. So member states partnering together to channel those amount of money. And now you know the situation in the region, which is impacted by what is happening in Ukraine. And this comes at a moment where we are launching the next generation of product. So we have published and launched the InvestEU facility, where we will have now additional budget available to support companies in the area. And the InvestEU, I mean, the new budget available is an amount of 26.2 billion, aiming to achieve a leverage up to 372 billion. Those amount of money are split into 4 different windows. One window which is social investment and scale, one which is sustainability, one focusing on research and innovation, and one on competitiveness. So one element which is important is impact. So now we want to have more impact, and this is done in a context where, you know, companies are still recovering from the COVID crisis. The COVID crisis has shown one element, is that digitalization is something where Europe is lagging behind. So we need to continue to push companies to go digital. And last but not least, and this has been emphasized and flagged with the situation in Ukraine, we need to become independent from an energy point of view. The green is key. So we need to accelerate the green transition in order to be more independent. And in that area, independence means freedom. So this is a bit where we stand now. And we hope to be able to sign the first agreement, let's say before the summer, so that we can kickstart and support the companies for the next 5 years under this programming period.
Thank you very much, Vincent. And I can only echo what you say in terms of energy independence. I've been touring a few of the countries affected by the war since the war started in March, in Moldova, in Poland, in the Czech Republic. This is not Southeast Europe, but clearly the notion that we cannot depend for our energy or for our core supplies from countries that are not democratic is rising across the region, and I think that's a good thing. Now, Marco, what's UniCredit's outlook on the market? What did you offer during the last year to support the post-COVID recovery? And how do you see this translate into new business opportunities generation?
Okay. Hi, good afternoon all. So first, I'm happy to be here, unfortunately only online. So in front of everybody, I confirmed that, Francis, the beer is on me next time we meet. So as you mentioned, and also Vincent touched, so I think instead of, that we'll be just now leveraging on the post-COVID recovery, which we were seeing in Q4 and first 2 months of 2022, we are now again in the times of uncertainty. And this is reflected in the region that we are seeing the inflation being at 30 years high. We are seeing a lot of disruptions in the value chains and overall environment is not, I would say, 100% business supported and oriented. That's why I believe that this topic that we are discussing today is very important. And as you mentioned, that in every crisis, there is opportunity. Our research teams are forecasting about 2.5% growth this year in Central and Eastern Europe, of course, excluding Russia. And this shows that the impact of last 2 weeks and war in Ukraine is having a toll of around 1.5 to 3% in the region. And we expect that it will have additional 1.5% impact on growth in the next year. I think what we say that this came after the COVID, where we see that during COVID days, we see that this cooperation between the local authorities, the international financial institutions like EBRD, EIF, and local commercial banks, it's very important. And we see that all the schemes that were in place supported clients, especially SMEs, in weathering the storm in much better way than they will be without it. So from UniCredit side, and you mentioned the US, how are we supporting our clients? We have around 37 guarantee schemes in place with a total capacity of around 6 billion that were offered to our clients since COVID started. And we have seen the significant utilization of all those schemes. And as I said, it was a huge support to our clients during this period. What is important to say that these schemes were, I think, around half between the local government schemes and IFIs. Our forecast and view was that the IFIs should take the main role in the months and years to come. And this was already seen, as Vincent mentioned, with I think the new program set. We as UniCredit for a post-COVID recovery signed the 1 billion euro EGF facility for the small and medium enterprises in our four countries where we are operating for 7 entities in our group. And we were already, starting utilizing those lines. And what I said, the clients are very much appreciating it because it supports and helps them a lot, to achieve, the funding needs that they are having. In addition to that, we have a lot of bilateral agreements with likes of EBRD, EIF, and other organizations, that work there to providing the further space and further buffer for our clients. So I think net, this, I would say, cooperation between local governments, IFIs, and local commercial banks should stay in place. And I believe this will play a significant role in the years to come. And for the end, I'm very happy that we are having 2 of our renewed clients from Croatia that can, tell us from the first sight, how this support looks like. So thank you.
Thank you, Marco. And from the side of the EBRD, I can only highlight how important it is to have partner banks like you on the ground. And these are banks that actually help us develop better products. Just to give one example in a minute, we've had a successful Women in Business line with UniCredit in Serbia. And why do I mention it? Because we have actually changed that product together with UniCredit. We started with a product that included a first loss guarantee because one of the well-known facts of lending to female entrepreneurs is that due to tradition, inheritance laws, and so on, they often do not have the same collateral to post for the loan than their male counterparts. So that's designed to offset this. Now, fast forward, after the line was rolled out by UniCredit, fast forward a couple of years, we lend to one sub-borrower at a time, 242 female entrepreneurs have been financed, not one has gone delinquent. It's much better than the guys. So what happens is then UniCredit says, now we're going to roll out loans to female entrepreneurs with less collateral requirements than we used to have. And that's the kind of progress that we want to have with our clients on the ground. But let's hear from the real economy now that the bankers are so proud of what they've done. Let's actually hear from the clients. So let's start with Maria, and maybe tell us, first of all, what your company does, actually, and then what do you think of business opportunities in these unprecedented times?
So hello, my name is Maria Marvel. Thank you for inviting me, first of all. So company Hvaljen Budi, situated in Zagreb, Croatia, is here from 2011. And up until then, we have been waiting for these times to come. So our main business actually is import and retail of renewable energy sources equipment. We do entire systems. We import them, and we do wholesale and retail, as I mentioned. So up until the 2011, we have been waiting for this, and finally in Croatia, I can call it so, a big boom is happening with green energy, with independence. All of these factors, unfortunate for the entire world, the COVID pandemic, the war in Ukraine, the Russia being shut down. So everything is actually working on our behalf, because people are more and more thinking about the independence, thinking about the green energy, thinking about the future. So unfortunately for the entire world, it has been a big plus for us. And in this manner, the funds that we came through with the UniCredit Group and with the support of Europe has been very helpful, since in the peak of the pandemic, there was a lot of problems with the delivery of the goods, with the transport costs going up, with the raw materials prices going up. Everything was really wild. We had no knowledge of what was coming, what was tomorrow going to be like. So it was very important for us to fill up the stock, to gather as much as possible of the goods that we can, so that we will not be suffering in our retail. That is where these funds came very helpful, but I will believe there will be an opportunity later to talk about the realization of these funds.
And sorry, as a follow-up question, but how dependent are you on single-source China as a supplier for your products?
Well, we are very, there are certain problems with China, especially now that China is being shut down, some of the cities, but we have been working with them all throughout this. We were able to fill up our stock thanks to the funds that we received from the UniCredit Bank. So there were no delays, there were no major problems with the goods. But now the transport is getting much slower. It is so the goods from China are coming through from maybe 3 months minimum, even more 4 or 5 months, which is a very large period. So it is a huge problem for the importers in Europe. There are certain stocks throughout Europe, but China is the main supplier, we have to be honest. So it is a problem, but since we have had the funds in the most critical period, we have had an opportunity to gather a lot of materials, a lot of goods that we need for the sales. So we are pretty safe in that area.
All right, thank you very much. Now, let's turn to Libor. Libor, you're the CEO of Grafco Kaspar, and I know you're going to talk to us about your business, but before we do that, Let's run a small video to present it quickly. So Libor, quite a nice video here. How would you comment on the current economic environment, and which opportunities do you see for that very sustainable business you seem to have created?
Thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting me. Good afternoon to everyone. As you saw on the video, we are not so huge company, but we are one of the largest digital printing on textile company in Southeast Europe. About opportunities, first of all, I must say we see some difficulties these days. Disrupted supply chains, occasional shortage of the raw material, and constant price increases, inflation. But we also notice some trend. One trend is return of production from East Asia back to Europe. And we see also trends of mass customization and customer wish for fast delivery. As someone mentioned, I have one example. We have acquired several new customers from Germany and Austria, to whom suppliers from China are unable to deliver on time, or they become too expensive, or cost of transportation from China is too high. And therefore, I see here opportunity because the production returns back to Europe.
Okay, that's quite an interesting trend. We see the same, actually. Our chief economist has also highlighted this, despite the gloom from the shock in energy and other commodities prices. Marco, if you don't mind coming back on the screen, could you maybe elaborate how the involvement of UniCredit how UniCredit is involved in deploying these solutions that include a grant component from the EU that is then distributed by the EIF or sometimes the EBRD? How experienced is UniCredit, and what's the strategy in that regard for the future?
Okay, thanks, Francis. So I think on UniCredit side, we trying to leverage on our unique position and pan-European presence. So I think we are trying to be the one-stop shop for all of our clients, whether they will be, small and medium one, or the large international clients that are active in the countries where we are present. So following our clients' needs and discussions, we noticed the need for the usage of grants as a component in their daily life and in their business. So for a long period of time in UniCredit, we have the centralized team that is managing grant business and risk sharing schemes across the countries. So working on the centralized level, but having the teams in the local countries, meaning that at UniCredit there is a specialized team covering this part of the business, and it's involved in all steps, from negotiations with the IFIs, with the local governments, clients, and more or less, to the creation of the products per se. This is what was mentioned, by you, Francis, by Vincent. This is the important role that we all together should create the product that would be, helpful for the clients in the region. So we have these teams in 11 countries where we are operating, working, all together and trying, to benefit from the scale. As I mentioned, we have 1 billion agreement signed with EIF, and then spreading all those grants across the countries. In addition to that, our local relationship managers are working with local clients in developing, and raising awareness of the product, make that products applicable for the local market. So in terms of the experience, and as you mentioned, with EBRD, we have, I'm sure, more than 20 years of joint cooperation, same with the EIB, and this is something that for its, let's say, in heart of our business, and we see a huge importance for it, not just for the SMEs, but also for some, as I said, or our large international clients, because we are seeing with the NGEU RRF programs that are coming in place, significant interest from the international companies willing to support local economies to develop. And there, again, using UniCredit network, we are trying to be the bridge between the local governments, international clients, and the local clients. And then, tailoring a lot of services and products in addition to grants, whether, that will be some, bridge financing, some special project finance products, a lot of guarantees, transactional banking. So I think we are really trying to be as a support to the client in order, to maximize leverage on the opportunities coming from, I would say, very good programs and products set by the EFI, EBRD, and other IFIs.
And can I ask, Marco, I know we're in polite company, so we're not supposed to talk about things to improve, but what can be improved in the way the IFIs are packaging and putting together these products? How do we make it easier for you to utilize and more impactful on the ground?
I think, as all the large organizations, as, both UniCredit is, international financial institutions are, we need to be, I would say, all, faster, because, as we are dealing with mainly smaller companies, their decision-making process is, I'd say, much quicker and, leaner than ours. And this is something where we all need to work together and to have, the, let's say, time to money, the process, much faster, because the times are changing. We are facing a lot of headwinds at the moment, and we need to be able, to act fast and to really accommodate, the client's needs, and for them to support, to weather the storm, but not just to weather the storm. We heard also from both companies here that there are a lot of opportunities, and maybe it's a good moment, for everything, from a green transition to digitization, and to find a way to be as fast as possible, to support local economies transiting to more greener and to more digitized world than we have today. So I think that's the area, where should we work together.
Thank you. And I think, Vincent, you will agree with me that this is probably an area where IFIs, like the speed of movement, is probably an area where IFIs have some room for, improvement. But beyond that, maybe you can elaborate a bit on how the IB group is involved into channeling the Next Gen EU and RRF facilities into its economies, and also how InvestEU works as part of the NGEU and RRF. Any new programs that you're thinking about? Vincent, over to you.
Thank you. So the EIB group is one of the implementing partners. And this is something new. I mean, if you look at the previous programming period, the EIB was the only implementing partner. So this time, out of the 26.2 billion of available resources, 75 is allocated to the EAB group and 25 to other implementing partners, meaning that in different countries we have NPIs or other IFIs who can apply and volunteer to distribute the budget according to the condition imposed by the Commission. About the next generation EU, this element has been used to boost the launch of InvestEU, meaning that we have front-load part of the InvestEU in a period where it was really needed. And the consequence of the next generation EU is that InvestEU need to be deployed by 2024, meaning that by end of 2023, 60% of the InvestEU budget should be approved and signed by end of 2024. So the idea of the budget which has been allocated to InvestEU was really to boost the start of the InvestEU. Then you have the Recovery and Resilience Facility, which is an option that member states can use. It's a budget where they can contribute to boost further in their own country the InvestEU. And we expect some country like Romania and Bulgaria to opt for that option so that additional amount will be available in those countries. And this is quite important because especially in the region we are speaking about, which is the most affected by the Ukraine, this is an idea for the countries to try to help the companies in those difficult times. So this is how we are involved in this. So we are an implementing partner, meaning that we are deploying the different palettes of product available under InvestEU, being guarantees, being equity instruments, and always with a certain impact objective. So I have explained before that we have the 4 windows. It is always in that context that those products are developed. So impact with 4 defined thematic targeted, because the budget is a bit limited, but we want to have meaningful investment with the limited budget we have.
Thank you. And just as a clarifying question, and these are instruments that are deployed, of course, in the EU member states, but there's equivalent, some of them are actually also available to the non-member states, to the candidate countries, to the Serbia, Bosnia, Moldova, and so on. Can you share with us your experience there?
I mean, we have deployed different products in that area. I mean, what we have done is we have mimic the product that we have under what we call the central mandate. In the past, it was Inofin, Cosme, and Easy microfinance. So we have, together with member states, discussed what potential budget they have. And we have tried to mimic together with a colleague from the EMB, because sometimes we combine the resources to make sure that we can have a meaningful impact in those countries. So we have done this with DCFTA, we have done this with other regional mandates, and the experience showed that we could leverage on the experience we have built a central mandate into those countries. It's of course more targeted. We can have a bit more focus on policy objective, but it's really to address the market gap identified together with the member states.
Thank you. Now let's hear back from the clients. Actually, how good has this been? So Maria, in your company, what would be your feedback about the InvestEU opportunities and about the IFI support? And don't just say, oh, they give me money, therefore I need to give a nice answer. Help us progress, please.
No, first of all, I do have to say thank you for giving us the money. Okay, but the feedback is really positive, really positive. It's a few circumstances are applied here. It was the right timing. It was really necessary for us to get these funds. Through this pandemic, a lot of companies who did not have the funds, unfortunately, went down, closed, are not in business anymore. But those who had funds or who had the opportunity to get the funds survived. That is the fact, and we cannot make it any other way. So that is why these funds were very helpful to us. Of course, low interest, less collateral. Those were all the things that were very helpful to us. A few moments ago, you were mentioning something about the speed, about being faster in providing clients with these funds. That would be very helpful. Sometimes a lot of paperwork takes a lot of time, and you know that we never have enough time. So if I have to give a constructive critic, then that would be please speed up everything, make it easier, make it simpler, so that I think it will be helpful for both clients and the banks as well.
Thank you, and we'll try and implement what you said. It's actually we do it. It's easier for smaller clients, like for individuals. We actually have a web-based app that you can put on your cell phone and select equipment that is pre-qualified for the energy efficiency lines that we have. But I will agree with you that maybe we can take this offline, and I need to visit you and hear exactly what you have to say on this. Libor, how do you see these instruments, be it the NGU, the RRF? Do they actually support these new business opportunities we were describing? And what are the challenges you see in the solutions with grants? And how would you recommend we modify them, we overcome them?
Okay, a couple of questions. Okay, first of all, we are now completing an investment. And with money from EU, we bought new machine for digital printing on textile. It's waterless. Traditional textile industry processing pollutes 20% of the Earth's water sources. We print waterless, reduce energy, reduce waste. We built with this project, finance from EU funds, we built also new software. The new software enables for us to perform automatic nesting of garments on the fabric roll, and that allows maximum use of fabrics and minimization of waste. With all this investment, with all this project, we help to transform textile industry from traditional into slow fashion and into eco-fashion industry. Next question, what to change? Companies in this region traditionally have been poorly capitalized. They have a low level of equity. And I see a lot of good businesses, they are not eligible to apply for loan, and they are not eligible to apply for EU funds. And I think next steps in helping companies in this region should be to support equity strengthening, increasing equity, perhaps through some kind of mezzanine financing or something similar, and as well as strengthening guarantees for working capital loans.
Thank you. That's a very good suggestion. Maybe, Andrea, you want to comment? You've been patiently sitting here, very silent.
No, actually, I'm really, really interested in what customers are saying. Actually, nowadays, for many years, banks were not very keen to listen to customers. Luckily, I've been working in different industries, like fast-moving consumer goods, white goods, manufacturing, and there, for us, it was a must to put the customer at the center. So I'm really pleased that finally also the banks are listening to customers. And I take especially the hint by Maria, be faster, be simpler, less is more. This is, in my opinion, the story that the financial industry should learn very fast. So I'm really, really pleased that the customer are asking, but also for us is a duty to give.
Marco, when do we get to start on this mezzanine facility that Libor wants?
I think, that listening just, what Maria and Liber were mentioning, I believe that this is the right topic, and, the less collateral, lower pricing, eligibility, and then, the mezzanine. Of course, this is something that is the next step. I think that with all these changes that are coming, and also I think Libor was mentioning, that the production is, let's say, coming home, and with the increased importance of the local and smaller companies, I'm sure, we will be seeing, much more structured products coming into the play, much more funds coming and investing into the local companies. I think innovation is something that will definitely be there, and together with EIF, we on UniCredit side, we were one of the biggest users of Innofin that was used for the financing of innovation. And what the Croatia is, I would say, if you look the region where Croatia is, I would say that Croatia is already one of the countries with the largest number of the smaller companies that are attracting a lot of investments and funds. And in my view, naturally, the mezzanine, the equity investments is something that will come. In addition, that's something that will give additional boost to the local economies is definitely the NGU and RRF. It's something together with the React EU, we expect in the, let's say, the UniCredit C countries around 120 billion euros to come in the next couple of years. And on back of this, we will see the, as I mentioned, transition to green, digitization, and that would, this wave would increase the importance of companies, as both Maria and Libor are managing in the local countries. And as the next steps, I'm sure the specialist, funds will come with a different lending opportunity or possibilities. We are also seeing, with some of the regional, let's say, smaller development banks already asking questions on this mezzanine lending, on any other possibilities to deploy the capital and the liquidity, and not just, the pure funding. So I think that that we are, in a changing world, but I think these changes will bring a lot of opportunities from which the companies, as ones we are having today, would benefit. And with their growth, we will see, the different products coming into the play, and definitely, mezzanine financing. I'm sure in the very near future, we will see some of the companies entering into these kind of transactions.
Thank you. Now this is very thought-provoking, this 45 minutes we've had together. I want to mention that there's not a single question in the chat, so you guys are not doing a terribly good job in the audience. I'd like to keep some time in the end for a Q&A. Let me remind you to go on to slido.com, slido.com, and put in the code 917000, and then select the event name. And then you can ask your question, and I'll be happy to read out the question in the last few minutes of the panel. But before we do that, and hopefully you guys get to work, Vincent, what could be done more, again, listening to the clients, to support business opportunities and the economy of the region from the IFIs?
I mean, from our perspective, and I think I concur with Marco, we need to be faster, efficient. And I will use another word which people know very well, is time to market. this is something where we need to accelerate to ensure that we can channel the InvestEU budget to the real economy as soon as possible. That's one of the elements. On the negative side, I mean, InvestEU has a new governance, which is for the moment untested. So we are trying to make sure that we can limit the impact of the new governance on the time to market. One element as well, which we know, is that the budget for the moment are a bit limited. So we need to be efficient, meaning that we need to select the right intermediaries, the one having the most impact in certain region, in order to ensure that this budget first is spent and has a maximum impact. On this, we have done several initiatives. One of them was done, in fact, with UniCredit, but also with other large banking groups, is what we call an umbrella agreement. An umbrella agreement is a framework agreement with a banking group, which allow to distribute the budget according to the demand. Meaning that we sign with UniCredit, for example, under INNOFIN, an agreement covering 9 countries, and INNOFIN was supposed to targeting innovative companies. And in Central and Eastern Europe, sometimes the demand, when you discuss with financial intermediary, is a bit difficult to assess in small markets. So what we have done with this framework agreement, we allow the financial intermediary to reallocate the budget where the demand is ex ante, meaning that we don't need to renegotiate the contract, to rediscuss the discussion. We know exactly what he can do. We want to have a minimum amount per country, but then if there is no demand, for example, in Serbia, he can reallocate part of the budget in Bulgaria. So this is something which is important to maximize the limited budget of the Commission. This is one of the elements we need to do. Time to market for me is the most important. We need to be quick. I mean, you know, when a company apply for a loan and apply for certain subsidies or support from the EU or from other guarantee scheme, what they want to know is whether, first, if they are eligible to that type of support scheme, and second, when they can have the money. And on this, we need really to try to make sure that we can provide an answer quickly and that the loan can be granted in a very short time frame.
Yeah, I guess that's a good way to set a target for our community, Vincent. Thank you. Maria, would you agree with these future priorities as described by Marco and Vincent, or do you see more? I mean, you're at the forefront of the green revolution. You install solar panels, and I'm sure that in those days, I mean, you have longer times to actually deploy, but you also have a surge in demand. So how do you see the priorities, both in reaction to what Marco and Vincent have said, but also for your future plans?
First of all, I have to refer to the sentence that I heard at the beginning of this panel. It was green is key. I loved it, and I'm going to use it. So green definitely is the key. It is the future. Independence is future. What I see is, through my example, through my company's example, is that we have had in the first 4 months of this year, we have had a 100% growth of business. So it is an enormous growth. It is a branch that is blooming and booming, and it cannot be stopped. Therefore, it is a perfect opportunity for cooperation of companies who are in this business with banks and with investing, let's say, companies who can provide funds for those. We are having a big boom here in Croatia, but we are also having a lot of problems because our public electricity network is very weak. It cannot uphold all of the necessary electric needs. Therefore, even more people are turning to renewable energy sources. What we companies expect from you, of course, these funds, but what we need is really the speed. We need your support. We need you to be there for us. I have also heard a very good sentence that the client is finally heard and that the client is finally being important in the bank. And I can confirm that that is so, because I have had nothing but good experience with the UniCredit Bank here in Croatia. They listen to me, they talk to me, they are here for me. And if it will be made for them to be able to be faster, to be more efficient, to need even less collateral, even smaller, even be able to give even smaller interest to us, that would be very, very helpful. And I think, and that would be both beneficial for the clients as well as the banks.
Thank you. And I heard Marco a bit earlier promise these lower interest rates and less collateral. So, I'm sure you'll hold him to it. Libor, how do you see this from your standpoint? Do you agree with Maria, or do you have other points to add?
I agree. First, cooperation with bank. I have also very good experience. The approval of credit went smoothly. We had some changes in the payment dynamic. The bank adjusted that, changed the contract. I think the experience is positive because I see here three elements. First of all, the project need to be prepared very well. Second, the bankers should be familiar with the model of granting or co-financing from EU funds. And bankers should be familiar with business model. If bankers don't understand business model, then cannot see advantage and future benefits of the project. In my case, everything was positive, and I'm very happy I have bankers, they fully understand my business. About funding from EU, I think the bottleneck is still local government. I think municipals, cities, counties, numerous administrative offices that issue various approvals, permits. They have no sense of deadlines. They don't see the bigger picture, only strictly administrative, and that is problem locally. I think the bottleneck is still local government.
Yeah, the simplification is not just for IFIs. I hear you. We actually have a few questions now in the chat. Maybe the team can put up the slide as well with the Slido so that everyone has it. But let me just share a few questions with our group of panelists. One from an anonymous, but I suspect an anonymous consultant, asking, what is the place for technical assistance in these programs? And is there any opportunity for Western European consultancies and engineering companies? So maybe Vincent, you want to take this one, or Marco?
I can take this one. Technical assistance is, of course, part of the InvestEU program. This is I could not detail all the product and all what is available on InvestEU, because if I would have to explain this, I would spend a few hours with you, and I don't think this was the objective. But of course, we have a technical assistance element in the InvestEU. Of course, it is open to everybody, so this is public money, so we need to act in full transparency. So conditions to get access to it are very clear and transparent, and you can already have some information on our website where it is described what we intend to do and how we will make sure that external consultant can have access to it.
Thank you. Now we have another couple of questions by actually Igor, who sent us two questions, probably precising his question around where do you see the CE region in 5 or 10 years? Would CE become the next tiger economies, like some Asian countries? And what innovations, if any, in business would drive the CE economies within the next 2-3 years? Should we ask the The clients or the bankers, this question? Who wants to be a tiger?
Maybe I can just give let's say intro, and then I'll let you know the client's comment. As mentioned, we the region should be in position to benefit from the expected inroad of EU funds, and this is something where we all together need to work. Not to be, I would say, another missed opportunity for the region. So. Everyone should be equally responsible for it. IFIs, bankers, clients, but what Libor mentioned, the local governments, because if we are, not able to, attract, the funds just because of the local governments, problems, then we have the overall problem for the whole economy. So I think this is something where we all need to work together. I also can relate to the question before on the technical assistance. We are seeing in some countries, and we are working with some of the consultants together, and also with the local governments to make this process easier. And, with the ultimate goal not to miss the opportunity and to be in position, to leverage on this, I would say, unique opportunity. And as I mentioned, 120 billion of funds is expected to flow into, a couple of UniCredit C countries, and this is something that, we need to leverage on.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to come in onto this question about, tigers in Central and Southeast Europe?
But, and I think the person who could answer this question would be extremely rich because he could anticipate. But what I can say that, it's a very dynamic region historically. There's a lot of opportunities and also challenges that we need to tackle. We have a certain amount of budget available now that we try to deploy. But on top of this, we have also very big challenges, like a flow of migrants that are moving mainly first in this part of Europe. We have also supply chains issues, we have inflation, and we have the energy dependency. So all those elements, in fact, are challenges, but are also opportunities. And I think the region is well positioned to benefit from these opportunities, and it's a bit up to us to try to maximize the budget currently available. That's one element. The second is that, okay, the crisis in front of us is likely to be a medium-term, long-term crisis. And in all the crises, at a certain point in time, the stakeholders will have to step in. You have seen what happened.
I will have to interrupt you. We need to conclude, actually, and there is just one question that I wanted to share with all of us, because actually one of the ways to use the budget, there's a few questions around waiting for the decision on EU invest availability for non-EU countries and the availability of easy ESI guarantees for these countries. Can you maybe comment on this and conclude so that we kind of finish on time?
Okay, perfect. Easy is currently still available, so we still have available and we can still commit for the moment. And on the part which is outside the EU, we have discussion currently to try to have a budget similar to the InvestEU, where we can also support companies in outside the member states. So this is something which is coming and currently being discussed, and we should have a better view, I would say, in the next quarters.
So on this happy note of a bright future for the region, despite all of the headwinds, and this big lesson of the need to be very agile and responsive, both to the client needs and to the changing business environment, we are actually reaching the end of our 1 hour panel. And I'd like you to give a big round of applause to our panelists who did a really good job. Thank you, and thank you to the audience for good questions. And back to the studios.